Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The legislation before us today would put some of our most sensitive lands at risk and limit the voices of experts, all to the further construction of dangerous projects that could harm local communities. First, H.R. 2883 undermines the National Environmental Policy Act and tips the scales in favor of massive, controversial oil and gas pipeline and electric transmission projects. Transboundary projects like this often travel for hundreds of miles, last for decades, and pass through sensitive and native lands and important aquifers. And as we all know, pipelines leak. And that's why there is currently a rigorous federal review process that takes into account the impact of these projects on the environment and the communities along their route. Today, in order to construct an oil pipeline, a natural gas pipeline, or electrical transmission line that crosses the U.S. border with Canada or Mexico, a presidential permit must first be obtained, as well as additional approvals from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FERC, and the Department of Energy or the Department of Defense, depending on the type of pipeline. Now, this review process helps us understand the environmental impact of the projects. It allows communities and landowners along the route to weigh in with their concerns. All of this helps to keep communities safe from hazardous substances that, if spilled or ignited, could have catastrophic consequences. And yet the majority is proposing this measure to severely limit that rigorous review. The bill effectively exempts these massive projects from any environmental and safety review under the National Environmental Policy Act. It narrows the approval process and environmental review to just the, quote, cross-border segment, end quote, of projects that physically cross the border with Canada or Mexico, rather than presently the entire transboundary project. So inside the United States, anything goes. Instead of requiring an agency to affirmatively find the project is in the public interest, the bill also places the burden of proof on the opponents of the project to show that it is not in the public interest. If that wasn't bad enough, the legislation would also give new life to the controversial projects that have already been denied for very good reasons, to allow those projects to resubmit their permits under the sham process. Second, H.R. 2910 would supercharge the national gas line approval process, putting private property rights in jeopardy and hindering important environmental reviews. The bill gives the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission almost complete authority, severely limits the input of expert entities who are tasked with protecting the environment, our natural resources, and the public health. Mr. Speaker, I want to remind those watching today just how streamlined the natural gas pipeline approval process already is. The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission is basically a rubber stamp entity. It almost never denies a pipeline project, and on average, 88% of projects are approved within 1 year. And then we think about the consequences later. In fact, FERC officials have testified that what is most slowing down the applications is that the applicant themselves failed to submit the necessary information to perform congressionally mandated project reviews. So this bill is a solution in search of a problem. Third, H.R. 2018 revives an ill-advised proposal to build a road through the Eisenbeck National Wildlife Refuge and its world-class wetlands. Now, this proposal has been, as pointed out, for a number of decades, but the proposal has been rejected by multiple state and federal agencies on numerous occasions over the past 30 years. It has been exhaustively studied time and time again, and every single time the results have been clear. The road is not the most viable option for the residents of King Cove. King Cove would do irreparable damage to the refuge. Yet the majority is ignoring the 3 decades of expert analysis and public input in an effort to greenlight this damaging road through a congressionally designated wilderness area. But more efficient and viable options exist, including the addition of a heliport and the construction of a new airport, which we should be focusing on because the road is the wrong approach. Mr. Speaker, We all know this, but I think we do need to be reminded from time to time. We are the stewards of our environment and this planet and the land only while we're alive. None of us ever really own it. We do, however, have an obligation to protect it, to care for it, and make sure that it exists for future generations. These bills fail that test. I reserve the balance of my time.